Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the SPHN webinar. This is the third edition, actually, of our new webinar series dedicated to the topic of infrastructure and process development in the 5 Swiss university hospitals for a responsible and efficient secondary use of routine healthcare data. So over the past 6 years, SPHN has supported the university hospitals in the development of its data infrastructures, not only financially, but also, and more importantly, in terms of standardization and interoperability efforts, with the aim of not only enabling secondary use of these real-world health data within a hospital, but also in particular enabling the pooling of data across multiple hospitals in an interoperable, but also cost and time-efficient manner for research purposes. In today's issue, Dominique is a product line manager teaching and research at the Inselspital, and Andreas von Ballmoos, he is head of Insel Data Science Center, will inform us about the developments undertaken in the data area at the Inselspital over the last years, what organizational structures have emerged, what infrastructures have been established, and what challenges arise around the use of routine clinical data for research. Thank you very much, Dominique and Andreas, for taking the time. We very much look forward to learn about the status quo of the Inselspital and your future outlook. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Katrin, for this introduction. So welcome from my side to today's broadcasting from the Universitätsspital Hospital of Bern, the Inselspital. About the content that we are going to talk about, we have split the presentation. I will do the first and the last part, and Dominique will do the middle part. I will talk about the IDSC, the Insel Data Science Center, as an organizational unit within the Insel Hospital, and about how we set up the SPHN structures within our organizations. Then Dominique will talk about research with patient data in general here in Bern, about the support and governance that the teaching and research department provides, about the research products and services that we offer or we provide for the researchers, a bit about our SPHN deliverables that are UH specific, and in the end, I will close with an outlook before we then go to Q&A. So this being said, you have already heard about, we are 2 in this edition of the webinar series. My name is Andreas. I've been heading the Insel Data Science Center for almost 3 years now. I have a background of business administrations and IT, and I am employed in the IT department of the Insel, while Dominique is from the teaching and research department of Insel, has studied molecular biology, and has been in the Insel almost or exactly as long as SPHN has been in place. So when we thought about what we can talk about today, we thought, well, let us not repeat what Bram and Patrick have already told you about generally what we do in the SPHN initiative, but just to summarize, of course, many things are the same. Like, we have built up a clinical data warehouse that we use to provide data for researchers. We have defined a single process for data requests and also for support of long-term projects like Swiss National Fund, or in this case here, SPHN NDSs and DEMS. We do participate in those SPHN projects, of course, and we have an infrastructure that let us transfer the data from within our clinical data warehouse via the SPHN connector into SPHN's Biomed IT infrastructure. And we also provide data within the federal query system. So all these aspects mentioned here are like more or less the same that you have heard from Basel and Zurich. And we thought that we would focus on some specific aspects that might be interesting for you. So the first point is the IDSC as an organizational unit. because we think, or as far as we know, this is quite unique within the university hospitals. We have what we call in German eine Geschäftsordnung, or in English, rules of procedures, which is a document that has been approved by the management, and that reaches back so far as 2016, which was even before SPHN started. And the roots of this decision were in the new Human Research Act that introduced general consent in 2014, which coincided with the hype around machine learning and data science, which made Insel come to that decision to form one central unit that serves to provide data for all the various client groups within the Insel, namely for research, for medical or clinical aspects, and for management support. So our main responsibilities based on the rules of procedures, if you want to summarize it in one sentence, you could say we are the single point of contact for secondary use of patient and administrative data. And if we go into it a bit deeper, our mission or our responsibility is to gather and store the digital data that is being produced within the Insel. And once we have it stored, we are the unit that prepares and hands out the data in compliance with the relevant regulations, namely the Human Research Act, the Data Protection Regulation, directives from within the Insel, and in cooperation with the Data Governance Commission, which is a commission that is interdepartmental, consisting of lawyers, clinicians, IT people that have the final decision on what we are allowed to hand out in what way. We also develop and operate IT tools for data visualization and analysis. In the simplest version, this is an Excel that is connected to some kind of database. We have a click visualization software, and we have software that we have developed ourselves that Dominique will go into a bit deeper for cohort exploration. And last but not least, we are the defined and only exit for data to leave Insel. So no data is allowed to leave the Insel group without going through us. And here the national initiative, the main initiative, of course, that we work on currently is SPHN and all the various registries where we hand out data. So a word about the organization, or talking about the organization, it's a bit complicated. It's a matrix organization. And when we go from top to bottom, you see that we are really embedded or anchored or supported by our management, because our strategic board, as defined in the rules of procedures, consists of 4 of the 9 directors we have at Insel. Like the CIO, the Director of Research, Medicine, and the CFO. So they kind of give the strategic directions for us, and they are there for us if we have some doubtable questions. That strategic board meets once every quarter, like every 3 months. And that is our possibility, like to get general guidelines on where to go with the IDSC. On a more tactical level, we have the so-called product line board, which consists of myself and the 3 product lines that I mentioned briefly before. Because we are a central unit, we have our focus, or we have bundled our main customer groups into those 3 product lines for teaching and research, medicine, and management. And this is the reason why we are here in 2 persons today, not just 1, because SPHN is, of course, an initiative within the product line teaching and research, and that is headed by Dominique. When we go down on the left side, you see a bit of the IT part of the IDSC. We have one data architect, Peter, who handles or who takes care of like the data flow. Where is the data produced? What does it mean? How is it documented? How is it transformed? And in what reports or data marts does it show up in the end? We have a small product management office that takes care of resource planning, of processes, that provides templates, and that helps us to have proper methodologies in our work. And then the two large teams are the Insel Data Platform team of Reinhard and the Insel Data Science team of Violetta. And as you see in the parentheses, they are both about 8 people, plus the ones that we have hired for SPHN. And you see it's a really relevant number, the people that exclusively work for SPHN. It's around 10 that are situated in those teams, and they are working. It's a coincidence that it's written in the green field, but of course, yes, they do work for Dominique's product line, particularly for SPHN. Plus, as you see at the bottom, there are 4 people in clinics. We have clinics that do more with data, and they have hired data engineers within the IDSC that exclusively work for them, but on our data, under our governance, under our line management. Let's go a bit deeper on what the IDSC or the IT part of IDSC does and what the product line do. Like basically, or the main, or to fulfill the mission of gathering and storing data, we have to integrate the various source systems, and to monitor the operations, we need to have some data modeling, like to bring together what are the same data, to have a unified naming or semantic layer. And of course, we need some data documentation or cataloging if you want. And anyone working within SPHN knows that this is like not that easy to distinguish what is documentation and what is a data catalog. But of course, you need to know what data you get and what it means. So that's basically the data in part. Then in the data out part, when we talk about data delivery in general, we have a process that takes care of, or that must go through data governance and to be approved, of course. And then we have the data extractions once it's approved, and to hand it out. And I will get to this on the next slide a bit more in detail. And we also do the next level, what we data workers call data refinement. We do data visualizations. We create clinic-specific interactive tools, and we have some data science projects to even go further in the usage of that data. Now, in the product lines, the teaching and research has basically those cohort explorers that are subsidized here by Software for Research. They take care of anonymization algorithms and delivery pipelines, particularly SPHN, as I mentioned before. The product line medicine, they create dashboards for treatments, actually, of patients. And when you know that we have 200 applications within Insel, where we have patient data, it's already like a big progress to have the information for one patient on one screen. So that's something that has been done before I was here. And now in the last 2 years, I had the impression that the big topics are quality assurance, that is becoming more and more strict, and also registries that we need to deliver data to, that become more and more numerous. And product line management, that's what I would call classical management support, where we have cockpits built up from various performance indicators from a bunch of data sources. Now, talking about the Insel platform, which is a bit the image that you saw from Basel and Zurich when we start at the bottom left here, the source systems. As I said, we have more than 200 applications within Insel. We have integrated 20 of them. We only integrate source system whose data are actually who there is a demand for. And now then we have the Insel data platform here in the middle layer with the red frame. And I think that's an interesting aspect. We don't have, or the Insel data platform does not consist of like one pot of data, but it's actually 3 different systems. It's an SAP business warehouse for financial HR and patient master data. We have MS SQL Server, who is like the core of the clinical data warehouse where all the integrated source systems land. And we have a data lake house that we use to store reports or textual content, and in the future also images. And then on the top layer, applications and data delivery, that's where the data is then actually used. Now, a word about our data delivery. This is the core service in italic and bold and underline, the core system as core service of the ADSC. We have around 350 data requests per year. That's about 1 to 2 per workday. The majority of the requests is for research purposes, and like some 10 to 15% is mostly quality assurance or clinical treatment. And what we distinguish is 3 categories of data delivery. The one-off delivery, where we like basically hand out a CSV or an Excel if you want. Periodic data delivery, where people need the data like every week or every month or every quarter. And like the maximum solution we provide is a data mart, which is a use case specific database where the data is updated daily. And very, very new, we have a new data request tool, which is based on our ServiceNow infrastructure. ServiceNow is like the tool for us for the IT service management. And also we have coupled this process with the study management of the teaching and the research department. So we have like one tool and more or less one process from request to governance to delivery, where we see all the steps that have been accomplished and the ones that we are currently in. And data delivery has also used or started to use the identification algorithms that have been developed in SPHN. So it's really fair to say, yes, SPHN has helped us to set standards also in that field. The second topic I would like to talk about is how we set up the SPHN organization at Insel, because I think that's maybe something that you can use for your further work. It's in just one picture. You see that we have several levels. Sponsor in management, that's the director of teaching and research who represents us or the SPHN initiative in the Insel management. Then we have like what we call the big round, the SPHN committee, which consists more or less of everybody who is involved in some way in SPHN. So all the team leaders of IDSC, of course, Dominique and me, and finance and the lawyers and also the product line medicine who is concerned in some aspects. And the committee meets like every 2 to 3 months for status reports and also to approve the activity reports that we are supposed to hand in to SPHN. The operational leadership is done by what we call the leadership team. That's Dominique, Alex Leichtle, and myself. We meet once every week to treat the questions that have come up in that week and to take decisions and actions. Then the more and more operational we become, we have the SPHN core team, which is the leadership team plus mostly the team leaders of IDSC. And the core team takes care of all the colored blocks in the bottom here, what we call topic blocks. You're familiar with all those names: collaboration agreement, host fair, all the work groups, projects, finance, activity reports. So what we basically do is like assign a topic block to one member of the core team who is responsible to treat that correctly and to not miss any deadlines. And now when we follow that arrow that goes to the right, we have an SPH developers team, which is led by our project coordinator, Gausi. And the team consists of people who are hired with SPHN resources like collaboration agreement, host fair, and NDSs, but also of developers that are employed by Insel. So these are our in-kind contribution. And just to show you a bit the mechanism, the core team people, or let's say the project leaders, if you want, they can hand over the tasks to Gausi, and Gausi prioritizes them if needed with the help of the leadership team, and then gives them for execution to the developers. So that's basically our setup here within Insel. And this was my first part, and now I hand over to Dominique.
Hello, everyone. I'm really pleased to tell you more about the product line teaching and research and how we help the researcher in Bern with their project using patient data. The product line teaching and research has the beautiful mission to facilitate the use of clinical data for research. And we are doing that in 4 areas. The first area is we established a research support, where as a first point of contact, we advise and support the researcher. So we simplify processes with different service provider and try to hand out good informational leaflets to the researcher. Together with the IDSC, we do develop in-house softwares which provide information and data in form of application and services. Then we, as the product line, is involved in the collaborative project as SPHN, InnoSwiss, and EU. We are supporting the researcher in planning and implementation of those projects, and inspired from SPHN, we now also hand out letter of support for the researcher if they want to submit to grants. And there we confirm the availability of the data. And last, we also provide the IT research infrastructure containing a network, storage, and a high-performance computing cluster. Additionally, we are at the moment evaluating and hopefully soon developing a research repository. So taking the rule of fair data actually in account and want to make our data reusable. Together with the IDSC, we want to accompany the research throughout the entire research journey. And especially in the beginning phase, there the DLF research support helps. It is the first point of contact and main coordination position for the researcher at Insel. We answer general questions regarding ethics application, study execution, data delivery through the IDSC, and we compile and provide support documents for researchers, and we build simplified process between different service providers. And those services, I can name them, is like we review ethic applications, we hand out a letter of support, we make a counseling, we give internal lecture at the Insel, we help with DTWAs and contracts. We are the first point of contact from research from outside of the Inselspital, mainly from the University of Bern. We help with recruitment of patients and with contacting for general consent. And of course, the IDSC by itself is also a really big part here, which makes, which helps about which data are actually available and which data services can be provided. Once the project is actually done and or like planned and handed in the ethic and it's approved, the researcher can order data at the IDSC. And after a first technical check, the DLF research governance takes place. The DLF reviews and approves the project that use health-related data according to the legal, ethical, and Insel internal guidelines. Thanks to SPHN, we could hire a research governance manager designated only for this job. We do have this process already in place since 2018, but only since 2 years we could not have this position. So the research governance manager is checking if the data requests comply with the protocol, if the necessary approves are available, and the legal and the Insel internal requirements being complied with. And most of the projects are actually only going through this station and are like checked within at least or maximum 1 week. If the projects are more complicated, she can bring the project into the data governance board, which representatives from different departments, from the Department of Medicine, Teaching and Research, Management Services, and Law and Compliance are sitting in, and they help if there is additional contracts needed or legal advice, or if there are agreements between different directors of the Insel are needed. In case it's unclear if the project is actually within the interest of the Insel group, the research governance manager can bring the project into the strategic board of the IDSC, which Andreas explained you before. But now I want to have a closer look on our research product and the data services we developed together with the IDSC. During the concept phase, the research will actually know if there are enough patients there and if the data are labeled. Therefore, we developed 2 cohort explorer, which I explain you on the next slide. And of course, you can also just order those information at the IDSC. Additionally, we developed a cohort manager. The IDSC cohort manager is in case a researcher already has his own cohort list or patient list, by example from a registry. He can upload this list on the IDSC cohort manager and have them matched with our data system. And with that, he can correct his cohort and actually see if we find them. And in the next step, he gets already a cumulative overview about his cohort. He can see how many of the patients we found, if they had a visit on their clinic, and of course, everything about their general consent status. There are also some suggestions how to use the ethic protocols. Additionally, we give something about the vital status of the patient, and it's not shown here, but the information if there are liquid biobank samples available for these patients. And now to the cohort explorer, we have 2 of them. One of it is I2B2, which is really similar to the FQuest from SPHN, where basically based on structured data, you can build a cohort. So the question is here now, do we have blood samples from patients with arteriosclerosis, which are over 50? And then yes, you get a number we have from 1,514 patients. Since most of the patient data in a hospital are unstructured, they are written in reports. And that's why we developed the Cohort Explorer search box, where it's like a Google-like search where you can type in, for example, a diagnosis like placenta creta, click on the search button, and then it actually shows you all the reports from within the last 10 years written at the Insel in this case, 533 reports from 288 patients on a pseudo-anonymized way. So you cannot see, you see there's black, like patient dates. And the researcher can now choose, oh, this patient is, by reading the reports, can actually choose, oh, this patient is actually interesting for me, and can include them in their study. Exactly. Once the concept phase is over, it's approved, and the data acquisition starts, we also here we have several products and services which we can provide. One of the nicest one is like the study bell, where researcher get informed if there is a patient within the Inselspital which actually fit inclusion criteria for their study. And of course, at the IDC, you can also order addresses for the patient if you want to contact them for your study. Then, of course, they identify data sets and samples to the biobank from the biobank. And additionally, we developed a cohort validation tool where when you have a long time study and you sampling all the data, and then we have this tool where the study team gets informed if there are data missing from certain patients or rules are not followed and the data are wrong. So they can always correct them to make sure that in the end you have a complete, nice data set for your study. Of course, we can also provide like REDCap imports and registry. For data processing, we do have a HPC cluster or an SQL database, and we can use the Biomed pipeline or switch if we want to share the data outside from the Inselspital. As you might know, the university had to define some focus point during the time of SPHN. And the Inselspital actually decided to focus on 3 topics. It's research with images, research with pathology data, and an infrastructure to share data. Here you see our newest development, it's the DICOM anonymizer. The DICOM anonymizer sends a cohort list to our health content management platform from Synedra and gets the DICOM files back, de-identifies the header of the DICOM files, or makes even some cutouts on the images if necessary. And we send them back to a specific research client where the researcher then can access those DICOM files and link them with the structured data also handed over from the IDSC. On the left-hand side of this picture here, you can actually see our vision, how all our research products should be connected with each other. The researcher can make a feasibility study with I2B, like build a cohort with I2B2, and then based on, in this example, reports from radiology, find which images from this patient they actually want to see and put them into the IDC cohort manager. The IDC can then take this cohort and send it via DICOM anonymizer to Synedra and link and hand over with that the actually pseudonymized DICOM files. Of course, we also want to make a pipeline for sending those DICOM files to Biomed IT node, Ubelix, and the Insel cluster. The next deliverable is actually, we are planning to integrate the pathology data into the Insel Data Science Center. At Bern, the pathology is not a part of Insel, not a part of the hospital, is an institute from the university. And that's why it's difficult to access the data from each other. But our plan is to build a data mart, which combines the data from pathology and Inselspital. And then it can be accessed for the data team from pathology or from the IDSC. And for the researcher, that means that they, in future, can make a request for tissue and pathology data and Insel data at the IDC service tool after approval and governance approval. Either an employee of the Insel or employee of the pathology, it builds the patient cohort on the database, combined data from Inselspital and pathology, hands then over the data set to the tissue part of the pathology. They link them with tissue and hand everything together to the researcher. And the last deliverable is actually one of which is done from the medical faculty in Bern. they want to build a research platform, because at the moment we really have problems to share the identified data from the Insel with our researcher from the university, as the people from university have problems to enter the systems within the Insel. And Bern actually decided to make a cloud-based infrastructure where there will be several collaboration spaces, which then you can work together and share the data with externals. Plus, it's planned to make one specific, we call it P-space, where we can connect to the Biomed network. And with that, I'm handing over back to Andreas.
So I'll take over the screen again. Yes, for the last part, which is the outlook, and I promise you that we have an epic outlook. Epic in the meaning of impressive, and also the name of a software, because we are introducing a new clinical information system called EPIC, which is the name of the software and the company. But also when you look at this picture, it's an epic appearance. This is an image of their campus in Verona, which is in the medicine area in Wisconsin in the US. And of course, EPIC is also the impact that such a change has on a hospital, because it changes like everything, the way you work, the processes, and the way the data is stored. And this certainly causes a bunch of challenges for us. Like first of all, just number-wise, we replace half of our source systems. Like 20 of the 40 source systems need to be replaced. EPIC comes with analytical system technologies. They have an operational database, which is a tree structure, which is then staged in a tabular database, which is then transferred into a star schema data warehouse. And of course, we have to somehow decide on what to use in the future. Does it make sense to have two data warehouses, or do we at some point want to merge them together? And what is the plan here? So that's one big question for us. While in the meantime, we also have to continue the data delivery for existing data flows, particularly registries, quality assurance, and also SPHN. And we need to find the new data points somewhere in EPIC to merge them with the old data that we have already sent. And then on the other hand, we have to ensure the availability and accessibility of pre-EPIC data. Because if you imagine in 5 years' time, when a researcher comes and wants to start some study, looking back 10 years, we have to provide pre-EPIC data and we have to provide EPIC data. And somehow we have to find those old data. We need to know what they mean and we need to be able to access them. The newly generated data, like the EPIC data, we need to get to know, because so far all of us, we have only seen training systems and no actual patient data from within Insel, because EPIC will only go into production in March next year. So this will be a big learning process for all employees of the Insel Data Science Center. And we need to attend trainings. We need to do certifications to be allowed to access those databases. And it will also have an impact on organization, because some tasks or responsibilities that were not there with the old systems are now possible with EPIC. For example, easy creation of operational dashboards. So that's something that will come into the IDSC, and we need to integrate those responsibilities and also people who do it. One particular problem is the time frame, because last February, the EPIC introduction project, they closed the window for like handing in requirements. And as you know, our NDSs have only started by then. So we were unable to say we will in spring 2024 need this and this and that data point in a structured way. And that's a bit of a problem, obviously. And the last point is a warning that we got from various people or organizations that the data quality in that new system will not be very good right from the beginning. People need to get used to it. Probably they will have to like harmonize some ways of working over all clinics. And we were warned that like half a year to a year it will take to reach a reasonable level of data quality with the new system. On the other hand, the introduction also gives us some great opportunities, I think, and let me just talk about these in the last slide. There are much more structured data fields that will be captured. Like if you want drop downs instead of free text. And this will be a big benefit for all researchers because we have more data, we have them structured, we have them numeric, and they are in a unified data model. And luckily, the SPHN core data set was already defined last February, so we were able to make sure, or we hope this will be done correctly, that all core data set data will be captured within EPIC in a structured way. We also use the introduction of EPIC to get to a better level of semantic annotation. All of the data within EPIC will be SNOMED coded. And we will also have a positive effect here. And to get to the end, we will have an Insel-wide unified data model. I mean, if you replace 20 different applications, or 40, depending on how you count, and 40 different databases, 40 different data models into one big system, it will become easier to understand where we find something, what it is, and I think all these positive opportunities will boost our future research. So as you see, we have a bright future, but there's still a lot to do for research, and we are positive to get ahead. So that's the end of our presentation. Let me talk about some acknowledgements. Thank you to all who have participated so far in SPHN, particularly our management, our directors, all our team and department leaders from IDSC and teaching and research. Of course, all people that work every day on the data to make SPHN a sustainable success stories, and everyone in the other university hospitals and DCC who helped us to get where we stand today. And this being said, we get to the Q&A session, and please, Katrin, let us know what has been asked.
So first of all, thank you very much, Dominique. Thank you, Andreas, for this very impressive presentation. It's always good to get some more detailed insight what happens behind the scenes, right? People read something about SPHN, but really the hard work is going on in the university hospitals. And it's, as I said, very impressive to see what has been done at the Inselspital in the last years.